Welcome, everyone. This special live stream performance is being hosted by the Helen Diller Institute for Jewish Law and Israel Studies at UC Berkeley, in partnership with c.a.t.a.m.o.n Dance Group in Jerusalem, the Murray Galinson San Diego Israel Initiative, the UCLA Yunus and Soraya Nazarian Center for Israel Studies, and the Swig program in Jewish Studies and Social Justice at the University of San Francisco. Additional funding was provided by the Peleh Fund. We are grateful for this multi-institutional collaboration that has made this event possible. Please take time to look at the amazing programs and initiatives of our partnering institutions. You have joined us today to watch Premiere. Premiere is a solo dance choreographed by Elad Schechter, founder and principal choreographer of c.a.t.a.m.o.n, for Rand Zeid Taha, a Jerusalem-born Palestinian dancer. Elad Schechter is a Jerusalem native dancer and choreographer. He founded c.a.t.a.m.o.n Dance Group in Jerusalem in 2012. He also founded the annual From Jaffa to Agrippa's Festival in Jerusalem's famous Machne Yehuda Market. Rand Zeid Taha graduated from the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance. She has won several awards and scholarships for her dance and choreography. Today's performance will take place at Haparsa Interdisciplinary Art Center, a new performing arts center in Jerusalem, and will be live broadcast to all of us. The live performance will be followed immediately by an artist conversation with choreographer Elad Schechter and dancer Rand Taha. This conversation will be facilitated by dance scholar and professor Melissa Melpignano. Dr. Melpignano is a lecturer and director of dance in the Department of Theater and Dance at the University of Texas, El Paso, and a PhD graduate of the Department of World Arts and Cultures at UCLA. With no further ado, we will turn to the performance of Premiere. The performance runs for approximately 30 minutes, and when the performance finishes, Elad and Rand will join Melissa for a 40-minute artist conversation. So here we go.
الو سريعة هيك.
حطيته جنبي بس انا
خفت خفت لانه كنت احكيكي قبل. شو الاخبار؟
الحمد لله تمام زي ما تركتيني.
زي ما تركتك.
اه
لسه بتشتغلي؟
والله.
طيب شو عاملين غير الشغل؟
وانا نايمة صارت تساعدني يعني اسوي اشي وانا بسوي اشي.
والله طيب منيح.
تمام.
كل شي تمام.
انت بتخلصين؟
والله بعرفش بس اخلص.
لما تخلصين
اه مين روح بابا؟
عشان اليوم لو عشان راح هلا
طيب
مش حدا بالبيت.
اوكي. شفتي ليوش اليوم؟
شفتها اليوم ونكدت شوية عشان هيك زهقانة ونور مش وانا مشغولة.
ونور تعبانة.
نور يعني تعبت وهي درس البرامج.
طيب ايه؟
بقول نور ما نزلتها شكلها بترتاح من الركض وراها.
اه طب ايش اكلتوا؟
عملت فخدات دجاج
يا
محمرين.
عيني ولا صحتين.
روحي كلي.
ما اظنش اكل دجاج بالليل يعني بس تمام.
كله تمام؟
كله تمام. ايش كمان في اخبار؟
ما غبتيش عنا كمان ساعة كلهم.
اخ حسستهم يومين يما.
والله.
اه يعني مش هيك بس زهقت او انه تعبنا يعني اليوم. كتير كان طويل بس تمام. طيب حجة يعافيكي. يلا see you. باي. هاي حركة المسبحة. المسبحة من الأشياء اللي كتير بتذكرني بأمي لأنها دايماً حاملة وحدة. المسبحة عبارة عن تمثال خرز بيعدوا فيه الناس تبريكات لله. كمان صارت جزء من شخصية كبار السن. أنا كمان عندي وحدة أعطاني إياها واحد اسمه بشار. مش كتير بعرف بشار بس اللي بعرفه إنه كان دايماً يحطها بإيده. المسبحة صارت جزء من روتين حياة الناس. حركة إيديهم وإيقاع إجريهم. الخرز عادة بيكون عبارة عن حجار غالية أو خشب، وعادة في بالمسبحة 33 خرز. المسبحة الكبيرة فيها 99 خرزة اللي هي تساوي عدد أسماء الله الحسنى، وتعادل 3 لفات المسبحة الصغيرة. تبعتي فيها 33 خرزة، ريحتها زي ريحة الزيتون. أمي عندها مسابح أشكال وألوان، وعادة تحب تعلقهم على التخت. الناس اللي بيروحوا على الحج والعمرة بيجيبوا المسابح هدايا للناس اللي بيحبوهم ولقرايبهم. المفضلة عند أمي لونها تركواز زي لون حجر الفيروز. بس بعرفش إذا حقيقي. واخوتي واختي كمان عندهم مسابح بس ما بيحملوهم. زيي بابا أكتر واحد عنده مسابح بس بحياتي ما شفته حامل وحدة، لأنه ببساطة بحب يجمعهم زي ما بجمع كتير أشياء تانية بحياته. بحب هاي المسبحة، بحس قيمتها غالية عندي، بفكر إنها كتير حلوة لأنها قديمة.
نحيت الحيرة والخوف وجرت الأيام، حليت كتابي وقريت ولقيت حروف، حكاية مطروزة بالصوف دفي الأيتام، والساعة ماني مكفوف حلوا البيبان لي سنين، لي سنين، مشى في بالي لي سنين، انتي الغالي انتي لحني، طبعت ثواني وتولوي، شقيت غوابي وماني حزين، خليت الفاني القلب قريب، والقرب شواني خلاني بعيد، ومشى في بالي لي سنين، انتي الغالي انتي لحني، لي سنين، قدي وكاري وجبلي العالي، في بابي وناري وأهلي وداري، قوت نهاري وسقفي وجاري، ظهري العالي ووحشي الثاري، لي سنين. في حالي وملكي خفي، انتي الشمعة انتي الاخري، شربت جوابي وقلت نمشي، في وسط سحاري تفكرت مليح، ولي سنين، صغري وصاري ولون احباري، اشتر كلامي وكاس نواري، ضحكة ثاري فخري وعاري، شفرة عيني وحلمي الساري، لي سنين.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Melpignano. I'm a dance scholar and practitioner, and I teach in the Department of Theater and Dance at the University of Texas at El Paso, where I direct the dance program. And my main area of expertise is dance and choreography in the context of Israel and Palestine. And today I facilitate a conversation with dancer Rand Taha and choreographer Elad Schechter, the founder of c.a.t.a.m.o.n dance group in Jerusalem in 2012. So while Rand and Elad transition from performance to conversation mode, I just want to thank them and the whole production staff so much for sharing their work. And thanks for all of you that have been attending, and to all the people and organizations that work to make this performance and live stream possible. I also personally want to thank Rebecca Goldberg of the Diller Institute of Jewish Law and Israel Studies at UC Berkeley, and Mora Reznik of the Nazarian Center for Israel Studies at UCLA for inviting me to facilitate this conversation with Elad and Rand, and it's my great pleasure. While Rand and Elad join us, I want to acknowledge also the other collaborators to the choreography, and I'm reading directly from the program. The light designer is Daniel Yehuda Spector, and the costume design is by Adi Yair, and the song that you heard towards the end of the choreography is Lia's Nin by Yuma, who's a Tunisian folk rock independent duet. Choreography is originally from 2018, and so far it has had, I believe, more than 40 performances around the world. And we can explore more of the making and possibly the remaking of the choreography with Elad and Rand themselves. I'd like to start off with a necessary premise. I see that Rand and Elad are ready. One of the risks of when talking with or about choreographers and performers that come from or work in highly politically charged areas, such as Israel and Palestine, of course, is to prioritize politics, conflict over the actual doings of dance. In other words, the risk is to overlook the choreographic project and the labor of the dancing bodies, and the risk is to create a hierarchy between the political and the artistic, as if the two were separated realms, okay? So in order to avoid this, this separation and this hierarchization and the overlooking of the work of dance, the doing of dance, we start by focusing on the artistic collaboration between Rand Taha and Elad Schechter and the actual choreography. And then we'll move on. I don't know if it's possible now to spotlight also Elad and Rand. Okay, great, thank you. So thank you so much, both of you. And thank you, Rand, also for being so promptly ready to enter the conversation after performing. I hope you're not too tired. I was, in my introduction, I talked about the importance of focusing on your practice first and foremost. And therefore, I'd like to ask you to talk about your encounter as dance artist, and so how you met, how you started to collaborate, and how you together conceived Premiere specifically. And later on, we'll move to the specific of the choreography and also Elad to your larger dance projects in Jerusalem. But so first, how did you meet and start to work together?
I'm going to go first. Okay. So Melissa, first I want to thank you for moderating this talk.
My pleasure.
I'm very happy that you are doing it. And I think very privileged. I feel very privileged to speak about my work and present my work after a very long time that we have been mostly at home and slowly getting out of this strange situation. So how did I meet Rand? That was the question, yes? So I was invited by the Jerusalem Academy of Music of Dance. And sorry, can we just lower our, just 1 second?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is the school where Rand graduated, by the way. Correct.
Sorry, it's
One of the most
a bit
important
hard
things.
to listen to ourselves and talk. This is much better. So we met in the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance. I was invited to choreograph a piece for the students, for the fourth year students. And Rand was fourth year, graduate year actually. My proposition for the, this is funny. My proposition for this choreography was a solo piece. And I entered the room at the first day, as it happens a lot of the time in Israel. I received 14 students. And when I asked, how am I going to actually create a solo piece for 14 dancers, the artistic director of the company said, you'll manage. And after a while, I kind of realized that I want to focus on the solo with Rand, and I communicated with the artistic director. And this is how we started to explore this very special piece. So first, it was premiered as part of a larger group piece in Jerusalem back in 2017. Yeah. And then in 2018, we started working together towards making this solo.
Mhm.
Hi. I want to thank you all also for watching and being with us here. I don't have a lot much to add on what Elad said and how we started the solo, but I'll speak a bit about maybe the work itself, and then Elad will add more since he's the choreographer. So as he said, we started working in the academy. So we started working with props that are very personal. So he asked each one of us to get something that they love or they appreciate, or yeah, they keep it in a safe area in their room. So I got the masbaha, and then the movements and the whole concept was based on the props. Like we, the dancers, were very connected to the props themselves so that we could create the movements under the supervision of the choreographer, Elad. Yeah.
So if I may jump in, or because we are entering the choreographic process, obviously, and who selected the object? So you selected the Masbaha, Rand, but did you, Elad, select the other objects? And I'm going to tell you in a bit why I'm so concerned with the props.
Yes. So one brought the masbacha, and actually we started working with the masbacha and trying to create movements and movement periods around the movement of the masbacha. The counting, the praise to God, and all of the history and the and all the baggage, the cultural baggage that it brings with it. And then somewhere in the process, I realized that I wanna jump in and bring more of my my world or my culture, not specifically the Israeli or Jewish culture, but just my childhood, my growing up, the fact that I was walking around with a Walkman, and yeah, and first when I asked Rand about the Walkman, she didn't know what it was. I had to explain to her what it was and how to actually operate it somehow with a cassette. And and it was actually very hard to get these props. Of course, with a Polaroid, it was a very big thing here in the 80s. So the props kind of gathered in the piece as I was putting a lot of the influences. I think that what I was searching as a choreographer at that moment was really just to find the connectivity that creates the same language or the same artistic language with Rand. Both of us born and raised here in Jerusalem, both of us had experienced our way in dance in many different ways, very different variations of dance. And I wanted to kind of bring the culture in, but still not, yeah, yeah, more on a personal level, more on a sort of a clean level in terms of the all of the politic baggage.
Mm-hmm. And so you clarified the cultural and personal significance of the objects, but I want to bridge all this to the actual choreographic practice, because at least this is what I notice, and I don't know if the audience feels the same. We'll have in about 20 minutes the possibility of opening up to the audience's questions. But all these objects that you selected together are extremely tied to specific senses of time. Of course, the Walkman reminds us of the 80s, and the cassette, the same. The iPhone is about our instantaneity, the instantaneity of messaging, but at the same time, the possibility of storing memories, whether they are audio, visual, and so on. The Masbaha is about counting time, as Rand showed in the performance, but there is also this circular sense of repetition. And there are other markers of time in the choreography. When you undo your hair and then take your time to put them up again, or when you have this phone conversation, which is an intimate phone conversation, and you allow us to sit there with you. So, and this is in the choreography, but I want to connect this to something that we find also in the program of the performance. You say that you both look for the moment when everything will freeze and it will finally be possible to breathe. So I really want to get into this issue of time, your research on time, and the urgency of time in this project specifically. And I'm also thinking about the title, premiere. I don't know if you can elaborate a bit more on this.
Yeah, I will start. First of all, it's a very deep, how do we say, like you gave deep comments on this solo, like as if you were in the process, because it's literally all about time, because we are similar in a way, but we have age difference, and Elad experienced Jerusalem differently than how I did also. Socially, politically, and in any way possible, even dance-wise. So all the props that Elad invited to the solo afterwards were related to his old memories in Jerusalem, and even the Arabic language, because he was related to it in a way. I mean, as a personal, like in his personal childhood, because he was encountered more to hear Arabic than the situation now in Jerusalem. So it's true, we really play with the time, with the old and the new, like my presence now, and my mom, who's old, but not old, I mean, but but I mean, there is this age difference between the
watching
three
this.
of us, because I feel like my mom is a big part of the performance. So and it's a really intimate moment, actually. That's true. It's always different with my mom because it's very spontaneous, which is always in standby, which I really appreciate also, I should mention. I don't know if Elad wants to add anything else for the props.
For the time, for the sense of time. Yeah, we worked a lot with that, and I think that living in Jerusalem or growing up in Jerusalem somehow gives you a different perspective of time and what time actually means. Jerusalem is not a very fast city. It's not a. It is sort of a modern city, but it has very long roots in the past. It affects so many people around the world, and so many people feel the belonging to Jerusalem in many different ways. And I think that time is a very important component in my work, and it's also a very important component in the life of people who actually live in the cities, served by the city or serving the city, depends on your point of view. So time is definitely a main factor in this piece. And I think that in a way, in the text that we wrote, that I wrote mostly about the piece, it is sort of a wish, sort of a demand from the world to actually just maybe slow down things and just give us the time to breathe and to kind of get used to where we are at the moment and the changes, the rapid changes, and just go back to our human behavior. And I think it's even more concrete at this moment after the COVID situation. And I think it's really, it's a wish that I'm still wishing for almost every day. So
That's very clear. Thank you. I just copy pasted the text I quoted in the chat for the audience. And before moving on, how do you, so now I think you have had about 40 reiterations of this piece. How has the piece changed, if it has changed at all? What things you have modified? Does the conversation with your mom changes? Is it recorded? Is it live? There's also a question from the audience about the content of the conversation and how reiterating this piece over and over has had an impact on your lives, not just on your artistic practice.
I will start and you will gather. I think, yeah, it's more interesting to ask Rand about the conversation and about the changing of the piece. As a choreographer, of course, it develops. I see choreography as a proposition. I give a proposition, and this proposition, of course, we work with this proposition, but eventually I'm not on stage. I used to be on stage a lot, but as a choreographer now, I see my role more of yeah, I'm giving a proposition, I'm giving the blueprint of the piece, and then I'm massaging it while it needs. So I think the piece has changed a lot. It definitely changed me as a choreographer, and it kind of crystallized for me a very important part in why I'm doing choreography, who do I want to do choreography for, and what is my role as an artist in this city and in the world. So for me, this piece definitely changed a lot. It's, I think, one of the longest running pieces I've ever created. So I'm very proud of it, and yeah, I think it's in constant change. So yeah.
Yeah, so as Elad said, it is in constant change, but maybe choreographic wise, like, but for now, I feel like it's more stable. Like if we do change stuff just to develop the movement, the feeling, but it also sometimes changes like from the situation we are in. Like now, especially that I haven't done it since 1 year, maybe. I felt like Elad needed some things to change, or like even feelings, some movements. Um, yeah, and about the conversation, it's spontaneous. It changes always, depending. Like there's no rules for the conversation with my mom. It's just a conversation between a mother and a daughter, and that's what we need in this solo.
Does she
To
know
have
you're
it
calling in the context
intimate.
of, sorry,
Sorry?
does she know that you're calling in the context of the performance?
Yes, she knows that I will call, like I have this performance and I will call her, but so she waits until I do. Um, but yeah, I think the conversation makes this solo very intimate for me also, like while doing it. It's a very emotional piece for me also. I am very proud of it, but it also, like every time I do it, it does urge in me more feelings, different feelings each time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that oh, go ahead, Elad.
I just wanted to add that specifically with Rand's mother, I think that I feel very privileged to bring her on stage, and she's such a lively part in the piece. I also don't understand most of the talk, but I think it's a mother to daughter conversation, even if it will be in a very, very strange language that we have no affiliation at all, we can sense the energy. And the energy is always there, even if Rand is calling her mother at 4 a.m. Israel time, and it happened. Or yeah, it's so there is a very special thing, and I think that it's another common thing for both of us, specifically as human beings, but also as in terms of culture. I also speak to my mother at least once every 2 days. It's a habit that I have, and if I am not going to speak to my mother, she's going to be very angry at me. And I think Rand is also the same. So,
Yeah, and I believe that besides this being nice on an overall level, choreographically, it contributes to create a sense of intimacy, participation, and, as you said, energy, because it is a solo, but it feels crowded. And I think that's one of the peculiarities of Premiere. And some of the questions that are arriving from the audience kind of somehow overlap with my interest and my concerns too. So I'm just going to share two. a question about the role of improvisation in the performance, in the making of movement, and also a question about how the movement was generated and if the movement changes from performance to performance, besides this choreographic structure per se.
So there is a structure, and some of the parts are more choreographed, and some of the parts are less choreographed. There are several moments that they're open for improvisation. It's a very set improvisation, so I feel it's not really an improvisation, because we work more with a rule, or with some kind of restriction. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah. There are some moments that are improvised, but since we did it also like many times, so I feel like I already know what I'm doing, even if it's improvised. But it's just few moments. But most of the parts are choreographed. Maybe the timing between movement and another do change, or like is improvised, depending on like the situation. I don't know, my feeling sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's no counted parts. Maybe that answers some of the questions. Like we never choreographed in a way that things are choreographed by counts or by the music. I don't think that we have a music cue at all. It really works more with a feeling, with restrictions, with direction.
Yeah, that I think clarifies. I was particularly interested. So I saw live one of the performances, I believe, in 2018. And then I saw video reiteration. And I think that the section after you display the objects, you're on the floor around and you reach out before you undo your hair. That section, which is the longest probably in terms of physical movement, it's the one that feels to me that changes a lot. And I found that today you were particularly energetic, more jumpy than in other iterations. And there was also more clarity in the use of the arms, like very specific arms. And I was wondering if these gestures were just an expression of a strong energy, maybe your need to express energy being on stage after, a year almost of performing, or if something else played in this new sense of energy that you displayed today live.
Thank you for noticing this.
It's kind of
actually, maybe it does have to do with being very far away from stages, but also like as a human we change, and as a dancer in this year, there was a very huge progress in my life and in my physicality. So actually this is the reason also. And also sometimes I feel like since I haven't done it for a year, coming back for it makes me like stronger performing it. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe this is how I feel personally sometimes when I don't do things for a long time. But yeah, it does have the reason is that like as a dancer, this period changed me a lot, because I wasn't all the time at home, but when I wasn't at home, there was a lot of things going on, new things in my life as a dancer professionally. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I think that you have also answered a little bit the question was about how the choreography has changed, and you just explained what triggers the changes in the choreography. while we're always waiting for more questions about the specifics of Premiere, I also want to move on. We have already touched upon the importance of being from Jerusalem, living in Jerusalem, dancing in Jerusalem, choreographing in Jerusalem. And Elad, the question is specifically for you, but of course, obviously open to Rand as well. Your dance work moves in parallel and with your larger activist engagement in Jerusalem. I believe that the work of your company, CATAMON, and other activities that you organize in Jerusalem contribute to the center, the dance discourses and the dance scene in Israel from Tel Aviv, with different repercussions that we can talk about if we have time. But if you agree, I'd ask you to tell us about two specific dance initiatives that you initiated in Jerusalem: the Jaffa to Agrippa's Festival and the Camp Initiative.
Sure. So from Jaffa to Agrippa's Festival is a dance initiative or a dance festival that we have started back in 2014. Actually, the first the first idea of this festival was to create site-specific performances for the old city of Jerusalem. But then Jerusalem got in the way, and the political situation was not allowing at that moment to do any dance performances. And also, it was, I think, a big jump in the thinking of what the population of Jerusalem could hold in terms of contemporary dance at that moment. So we quickly changed the idea, and back in 2014 we started an annual festival which happened since then, even in 2020 during the pandemic time. What we do is we invite choreographers to create site-specific performances to the Machne Yehuda market, reimagining and rethinking about the public sphere as a playground to create change, to create social change, to expose artists and specifically performance and dance artists in terms of their encounter with publics, and of course with the atmosphere of the market, the different business owners there, and yes, so that's a little bit about the festival. The festival is really one of the peak point for our association, for our organization. Each year we have different surprises. The market is always putting us in a very alert moment in time, and it always asks and demands different kind of different demands from us as choreographers, as creators, as curators, and of course also from the dancers and from the people who are participating in the festival. Just maybe some numbers. The festival is inviting about between 8 to 10 different original dance pieces that we support, mostly by Jerusalem-based choreographers. We bring about 2,000 audience members to the market during the days of the performances. Back in 2020 was a very different year and also a very difficult year for us. We had to constantly change the plans because of the regulation, the health ministry regulation, but we were able to create the festival and actually perform the festival. And that was a very rewarding moment for me as a cultural initiator, as a choreographer. I thought that bringing dance members, dance creators, dance public to the public sphere again at this very strange moment was a great triumph for us. And Campi is a new initiative. It's also a very exciting initiative. Campi is a Jerusalem dance and performance community that we are forming alongside with two dance organizations here in Jerusalem, Machol Shalem and Between Heaven and Earth, which are hosting us today in this beautiful new compound that actually rose during the pandemic.
Mm.
So Campi, maybe just a few words, is it's a new thought about how to create a community that actually is sustainable and can generate different collaboration between the community. So each community member is paying a very, very symbolic fee to be part of this community. And what we do is we generate this large pool of money that actually comes in not only from the community members, but also from other supporting members and supporting foundations and organization. And we bring about grants and different kind of subsidies for choreographers in the city. So
Yeah.
this is we just launched this about 3 weeks ago. So we are also very curious to see how it will grow and how it will affect the city.
And I believe that these initiatives of artists supporting artists are exemplary of in dance specifically, and it's definitely activist work. One of the communities that has been hit the hardest during the pandemic has been that of the live performers. And so this initiative is incredible and incredibly urgent. And there's a question from the audience that connects to the discourses and the dance discourses generated during the pandemic. If how different it is to dance in front of a camera and for a live audience, Rand. And also they wanted to know more about how this live performance was shot and was how the camera work happened.
It's definitely different. I mean, I'm dealing with the camera and not faces and, you know, like energies. Because especially this solo, it really depends on my connection with the audience usually. And I really do, I always appreciate every time I perform it, my connection with each one that's sitting in front of me. But I mean, also this experience is equally triggering also because there are people who are working behind the scenes. There's Elad smiling and and knowing that like there are people who are watching this also. Just keeping this in mind pushes me. It's not like that I'm recording it and then they will send it to you, and so it's it kind of have this live feeling, but without seeing the faces. About the cameras, do you want to talk about?
So this is a new theater that just opened last May. So in the last 10 months it's in existence, but actually there was no activity here because theaters here in Israel were closed as most of the world. So one of the brave thing that Between Heaven and Earth and Ronen Yitzhaki, which is the artistic director of this organization who is hosting us, what they did is that they created a studio that can broadcast live performances during the pandemic. And actually they were very successful with this And this is how this performance was shot today. There's actually 2 automatic cameras, 1 cameraman who was my dance teacher, Oren Mansoura, and there's a person who is in charge of all the streaming, Arik Potterman, who's a very dear friend and also a wonderful creator himself. And yeah, so this was the collaboration. And also on the American side, there's so many people, which I think Rebecca was acknowledging at the beginning. So I'm not going to compete with that, but I also want to thank them and take the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. I'm going to read another question from the audience. They ask, are there opportunities to bring Jewish and Arab residents together for performances? Well, I believe that your performances are public, but maybe you can elaborate on the like activities or programs that really facilitate the engagement of multiple communities for performances. And I think also in terms of actual performance, not just as audience members, but as performers.
Just to make it clear, the question is just about Jewish and Arab collaborations, if it's possible to bring about more of these kind of collaborations.
Yeah, it's like the question says for performances, so it's open to in terms of performers and in terms of audiences, I believe.
Okay, so if you're asking about our experience, like personally, because I thought you were talking about like what the opportunities that do facilitate these collaborations, which I would have maybe less knowledge about it, but it really depends on each artist and each person, human living in Jerusalem, because it's a very complicated city in all aspects, like socially, politically, and religious also wise.
Spatially.
For me, it really depends like how you grow up in the city, because we do really grow up separated. I personally did grow up like really separated from the, let's say, Jews community. And it's not easy to encounter this communication and this meeting every day. But I am personally open for like dance projects and artistic collaborations. And it also depends on the concept of each project, because I believe that peace does not happen by me dancing on the stage, unfortunately. So that's not my aim. My aim is like to really connect with Elad, and I know that this piece does trigger this subject. How did we work together, and how do we accept it, or how do we find it? How do we find working together? So personally, like it really depended on Elad also, because we had really this good communication, and we were on the same page. So yeah, I don't know if he wants to add something.
Yeah, I just want to strengthen what you were saying in terms of our collaboration is really it's beyond not political. It's really, of course, we bring our cultures, we bring our families in it, we bring our past, our longing for the future, or what we imagine for future, but on a very, very personal level. On a very personal, each one of us is really, each one of us is really looking at, at, at art and culture making in his own way. And I think that when we started creating, we realized that as much as we want to bring our cultural baggage in the studio, we don't want to bring politics at all. We're two human beings who wants to create together. And I think that in a way, of course, yes, this piece, any collaboration between Jews and Arabs in Jerusalem is charged. And I think that yeah, this is not something that we can change. What we can change is the way that we communicate with each other and how we actually bring the elephant in the room and not only just talk about it when we're outside in the street or when we are talking with politics. Or no, the elephant is in the room. So let's talk about it. Let's open it. Let's talk about our fears, our hopes, our relationships, our views over the world, and cultural baggage, and find the way to communicate through those the communal points that we find.
I can add also something that would really help these collaborations or make it possible. Being aware of the situation, like while working together, not ignoring what's really going on and dreaming about something that's not really happening. I mean, while working with Elad and while he's working with me, I think we were both aware of the situation, about the complexity of this city, and that we're not solving anything, and we're not on the same side politically, or I don't know, maybe we are, but like we were aware about what's going on, like we're seeing the truth, and this would help any collaboration or make it look better even on stage. Yeah, the awareness, I think, is the most important thing here while working together.
Thank you. Time's up, but I believe that with your last comments, you addressed a couple of questions that, again, are right from the audience. I believe that's the sign that you have managed to really engage us all with your practice and ideas. Thank you so much. And I'll just leave the virtual stage to Rebecca again. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. And thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. And thank you to Melissa Melpignano for facilitating a wonderful artist conversation. Thank you to Elad Schechter and Rand Taha, both for the choreographed performance and for their openness about their artistic collaboration. We're grateful. Thank you so much also to the behind the scenes staff of c.a.t.a.m.o.n Dance Group, Haparsa Interdisciplinary Art Center, the Helen Diller Institute, and also Berkeley Law for making the live stream performance possible. No simple technical feat. And thank you also, as Elad alluded, I get to reiterate all of our partners here. So thank you also to all of our partners in this event. The Murray Galinson San Diego Israel Initiative, the UCLA Eunice and Soraya Nazarian Center for Israel Studies, the Swig program in Jewish Studies and Social Justice at the University of San Francisco, and the Peleh Fund, all of whom helped make this possible. Please look out for upcoming events at the Helen Diller Institute for Jewish Law and Israel Studies and at our partnering institutions. The Helen Diller Institute will be celebrating its 10th anniversary and new name with a special event on April 22nd with former Israeli Chief Justice Dorit Beinish and Berkeley Law Dean Erwin Chemerinsky. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today. This was really wonderful. Thank you.